Hey, good morning, everyone. Leaders, we hope you have enjoyed this highlight resource series discussion over effective universal instruction. I know we've been receiving several comments and questions and suggestions, and not only that, updates on how you're using these resources in your districts. So I'm so excited to see the growth that's going to happen as a result of working together. I'm Melissa Gill from Wabash Valley Education Center. I'm the instructional outreach director there, visiting schools, working with you and my other ESC teammates so that we can put together projects just like this to support our educators. And so today we're wrapping up our session, thinking about everything that we have learned, which is one of my favorite pieces, always reflection. I'm all about the reflection. We can do, but leaders, when are you sitting and reflecting on what is happening in your schools and the impact that it's making across all grade levels? I always love to ask about vertical alignment, and it always gets a little bit of a groan. But if we can be intentional in vertically aligning our systems, wow, how powerful will our schools be? So typically our response to looking at our instruction is, we need to beef up that tier 2 and tier 3 resource, right? Our MTSS, our systems of support. We want to pour everything into tier 2 and tier 3, when actually we need to take 2 steps back and really dig into our tier 1. Right? Beef that up first, making sure that we're using the best practices, that we're pulling in instructional coaches who can help support teachers in the classroom to reach students. I mean, student-focused coaching is a powerful way of making a difference. Coaches work side by side with teachers to analyze student work. I mean, that is just one suggestion on improving tier 1 instruction. So how are we aligning our systems, getting everything in place, pouring into our tier 1 model so that our tier 2 and tier 3, easy peasy, wink, wink. I know it's not, been there, done that. So, but by saying we are going to focus on our tier 1 instruction, we have the goal of making sure at least 85% of our students are mastering what needs to be mastered. And so how do we do that? We allow for collaboration. We make time for our teachers. And I know administrators, it is so hard to organize that. But if we can be intentional in saying that this is a sacred place, I'm going to make sure that my teachers have time to collaborate, whether that's a common planning time with daily time for them to get together in 45-minute chunks, or if that is an early start or late start to the day. But being intentional in holding that space and making it sacred, but then also making sure we have protocols and systems in place so that we are actually analyzing our data and putting an action step to move forward. And then allowing time, just like today, to stop and reflect. You know, those key critical questions. Can we hear it? Can we see it? Can we say it? Can we do it? You know, how do I see these things taking place in our schools? And then what research are we using to support the instructional practices that we have in place? We don't have time to really dig in deep with that today, but really being intentional with what kind of practices are happening during our literacy, mathematics, and content knowledge blocks, right? And don't forget that key area of writing in all areas. And then I can't say enough about instructional coaching, not just because instructional coaching is something that I have done, but because I've seen the growth and benefits from it if done correctly and done well. So much success. Teachers own that success, and then it's passed to your students, who are then motivated and engaged to continue progressing. So it's a powerful model when used correctly, when instructional coaches have partnered up with their instructional leaders, their admin, and there's one focus, one goal on improving the growth for our students. So what are some things that we should reflect on and think about today? And please pause this at any time after any question that really is a trigger for you. because we need to be willing to make system changes. We're locked in a traditional schedule mindset. Um, and my question always is why? Why can't we, turn things around just a little bit in education? If COVID taught us anything, it's that we need to be flexible, and we can do it. We can be flexible and change things up from time to time. And then have you created an inventory of assessments? How have you analyzed instructional practices that are taking place? And, this is not a micromanagement, I'm going to walk in and it's this time and everyone needs to be on this page. This is talking about what kind of assessments are taking place in the grade level, and then what are our instructional movements. How are we moving forward? What action steps are we taking? And if we all agree on a strategy, are we using it and being true to what needs to be done to make the change? And then this one is always my favorite. What are your big, hairy, audacious goals? What are you doing as a school? What do you have as your target? No excuses, no exceptions. This is what we're working towards, right? A positive, productive, motivated culture. How is that going to happen? What systems of support do you need to have in place? It's like a two-edged sword. We need to have those systems of motivation and engagement for our students, but then what systems of motivation and engagement do we have in place for our educators and our teachers, right? And then have you had time to speak with your grade level teams, pulling in, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Talk to me about what you're seeing in your students right now. And then always, absolutely without fail, building that leadership team, someone from every grade level to create that vertical alignment, right? So that everyone is on the same page, the same goal and mission and vision is in place as we're moving forward as a system, right? And are you, as an instructional leader, open to professional development? It's so easy to tell our teachers they should be making time for growth. They should be making time for attending those classes. They should be um, finding ways, pick a goal, personal, professional goal, and then growing with it. Administrators, I know our load is heavy, but how are you making time and modeling that professional development is important? What recent class have you gone to? What recent learning have you shared with your staff to move forward? And the instructional coaching model, if done well, it works, simply because I say from experience working with an administrator that knew what my goals were as an instructional coach, but then how it aligned with her vision to move the school forward in instruction. So if done well, keeping in mind that the triangle of support, this is an amazing system for moving your kids forward, which is what it's all about. And then being very intentional, right? I feel like I'm preaching to the choir today, but have you identified your key data pieces? NWEA is great, but what I tell several of my teachers as I work with them, it's a great piece of information, but it's only one piece. How are you digging deeper to create for example, your literacy groups, your skill groups? What other pieces of information are you using? It goes beyond the NWEA in order to get those skill groups going in your classrooms. So these are very heavy questions, reflections for growth. So I challenge you just to take one or two and be very intentional, and then set in your admin meetings together and focus on these, thinking about this is a K-12 initiative. How are we moving forward? What are we doing in K-8 to make sure that our students are successful in high school? So it's a paradigm change. It's a mind change, shift, but it can be done. And I encourage you to grab these out and focus on them. So what could be your possible next steps after reflection? Of course, reach out to your local education service center. Every region, there are 9 of us. You have one in every region with full focus on our schools in our region. That is what we're here for. Your success is our success. So we want to be in it with you, making sure that you're growing every step of the way. Hold a book study with your instructional leaders using the resources from Effective Universal Instruction. talk to your administrators about what an instructional coaching model looks like and how it can be utilized and cause dynamic student growth. Which brings me to the Virtually Different Summer Conference. We will have Dr. Sarah Brown presenting with us. And so she will bring additional key tips and strategies from this book study highlight resource kit that we put together for you. I encourage you to enroll and attend. And then stay tuned because your ESCs, we are working together, right, Marty? To bring.
So, Melissa, thank you for wrapping up this series. I love what you said at the very beginning, always reflection. And I used to tell my students, we reflected at the end of every unit in writing class. And we spent a whole day reflecting, and they at first always hated that day. But by the end of the year, they really enjoyed that day. And convincing them that that's where the power is in growth, is in that time of reflection, thinking about your thinking. And so thank you for spending this time talking about that. And your last slide, I think there were, 8 or 9 steps that you pulled out.
Yes.
Those were so good. Those, yes. I'm not even going to try to pick a favorite, but I think just overall, what you said about be intentional about this, about spending your time, don't brush this off. It's far too important to brush off.
No, and we need our leaders in the learning with our teachers, like that gap. We send our best to professional development, but then I think it's also critical for our administrators to stop and attend also to model that growth and development as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I loved what you said about systems of motivation and engagement, that we do that for students, but are we also doing it for our teachers? I'm like, oh, that struck me very, very powerfully. So I thank you for pointing that out, that our adults need those systems also.
Absolutely.
They're human.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and like you said, Dr. Sarah Brown, one of the authors of Effective Universal Instruction, will be at the Virtually Different Conference on June 13th and 14th. Not only is she doing a keynote, but she's doing a breakout session. So in that smaller time, you could ask some detailed questions. So that is going to be such a great opportunity for folks who have watched this series and are maybe going to dig into this book on their own over the summer or the next school year, to spend some time with her, learning directly from her. $35 for a 2-day virtual conference, so you can join from anywhere. All the sessions are recorded. You can watch it later. It is the best PD opportunity around this summer.
Well, and I'm thinking for $35, I would, that's like to hang out with Sarah. Yes, please.
Yes. And she's just one of our keynotes. So
exactly.
there's just so many great opportunities with the Virtually Different Conference. So Melissa, thank you for your time with this series and your leadership. And we're looking forward to seeing what the ESCs have for us later in the fall. Oh, and looky there, there's the list of all 9. So thank you for pulling that up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marty.
Have a great day, folks. We thank you for joining us as part of this series, and stay tuned to the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel to see what we have in store next. So thank you very much.